How did you get into this crazy MSP space? Tell us a little bit about your story of getting here.
Well, it was an interesting start. It's and longer than I want to admit, but yeah, in the double digits years ago, I got hired on as a salesperson at an MSP, and I got there and I said, "Okay, great, awesome. What CRM do you use?" And they said, well, "What's a CRM?" And I said, "Oh, well, okay. Have you have never had a salesperson before?" No, no, we've never had a salesperson before. I
Mm.
mean, but you've been in business for 30 years. How have you not? Well, mostly, we've been just growing through organic and referrals, and of course, the owner was an IT person. They were good at what they did, but they had never done sales or marketing, and so by force of not having anything in place, I built out a CRM system for me to be able to work with this particular company, and then built out a marketing platform and started marketing with them, and we doubled the size of the company over the 2 or 3 years that I worked there, and then I just this skill set of building out sales systems and building out marketing systems for in the MSP space became I realized became a real something that people were looking for, and so I started getting recruited to. So you'll see, like if you go on my LinkedIn page, it's like 3 years, then another technology company, then another, and it was because I was, they were offering more and more money, and I was like, okay, well, so we'll go into, and became a VP of sales and marketing at my next job, and then really built out took the next step of building out a actual sales team under me, and not just developing the sales system. um, and then the last place that I worked at was a telecommunications company. As I mentioned, I was the VP of sales and marketing there, and they were a startup. And here in Alberta, in Canada in general, the telecommunications industry is like it is extremely it's just a bad situation. You
Mm.
don't get to choose a telecommunications company that you like here in Canada. You generally choose the one you hate the least.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at our customer satisfaction scores for our telecoms and stuff like that, they're like bottom of the barrel, and
Mhm.
it's for good reason. We have basically in Western Canada we have two large corporations. That's it. No competition. Two large corporations. Those are your choices. And in Eastern Canada, same situation, except one of the corporations is different. So we've got Rogers here in Canada that stretches across Canada,
Mhm.
and then you've got TELUS in the west and Bell in the east.
Right.
So so working in that area, I also started, my passion, my love of is helping small and medium-sized businesses succeed. We're a little bit unique that way. We're not looking to go up market. We want to stay in the SMB, and we want to help SMBs punch above their weight by leveraging technology. And so I started discovering this like gap in the market where, the owner, of course, would call the telecom, and we would look at the network and the internet be coming into the building just fine. We say, hey, there's nothing wrong with the bandwidth, just call your IT company, and then the IT company would come, and the IT company would say, hey, your network's working fine, there's nothing wrong, but meanwhile the owner doesn't have connectivity.
Mm.
So, the concept for Next Step is not unique. I've since discovered in the MSP space generally, but it's actually quite unique in the Alberta market.
Mm.
So in our Alberta, we do full. We're a managed service provider and we're a telecommunications company. So we sell internet phone systems, mobile phone solutions just for businesses,
Mhm.
specifically SMB, and we provide that one solution for technology in terms of like, one bill, one account manager, one help desk, and in Canada, not sitting on the phone for an hour or an hour and a half before you speak to somebody that can't actually help you is is something that business owners will pay more for
Oh, wow.
because it's the customer service is so bad from our
Really?
telecommunications provider. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's sort of how Next Step started, was my experience in the MSP and my experience in the telecommunications area, and seeing this niche, because I really feel like the the consumer that is the worst treated by telecommunications companies is the small business owner,
Interesting.
because they're using an internet technology that is exactly the same essentially as the consumer, unless they're paying extraordinary prices, but they get to pay twice as much for the same service.
Right.
So they just do. So so for us, we really have attacked the market in terms of like, being what we call a technology solutions provider,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a managed service provider. So that's
Understood.
sort of where we started.
Okay, so that's an interesting journey of coming, MSP, learning how MSPs operate in sales, then moving into that telecom world, which I did not know that was such a crazy world up there. It is interesting though. I don't want to reveal anyone's story or names or anything, but there was a very large MSP we worked with that was not in the East, that also was tied deeply with the telecoms. And I was fascinating just the lead sharing they did. I think it was maybe more than just lead sharing, but these guys were killing it. And I don't recall hearing that story of the telecom. That's wild. So here's where I get really interested about your story is, well, actually, before I say that, let me ask you this. Have you continued to pay attention to the sales maturity of MSPs that you get to know throughout the industry?
Yeah, obviously it's a passion of mine. I love sales and marketing, and yeah, it's I think we're getting better as an industry in terms of sales, like and some of the tools being provided um in the industry are getting better
Uh-huh.
um, in terms of what's normal for us. You look at, and then the big advancement that I've seen is integrations, like the major Salesforce, HubSpot,
Uh-huh.
all of the and Microsoft Dynamics. They now integrate with your ConnectWise, your Autotask, and that has really helped, because
Yeah.
now you can be working in a totally integrated environment. And then, if you're using UCaaS and you have your phone systems set up into your CRM, and
Uh-huh.
you're logging all of that activity, and now it's reporting to your PSA, which is how we have it set it up here. It's actually super powerful. So that's been a huge leap forward in terms of the availability of those tools and the cost of those tools, because you could do it 10 years ago, but it was expensive.
That's right.
Now you have, HubSpot and ConnectWise creating apps, that actually are free to users.
So, I agree with you 100%. The tools are more approachable, more affordable. There's more of them, and they are just flat out awesome.
Yeah.
My vantage point suggests to me that though the tools are better, um, MSPs in general still struggle in that
Oh yeah.
sales riddle. Do you have a similar take?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because most MSPs are unlike, I'm a little bit of a unicorn. I
Mhm.
own an MSP and I'm not an IT guy.
All right.
Right. I'm a sales and marketing person,
All
right?
right.
Now I'm a co-founder. I have that guy
Yes.
that helped me found the company. But the reality is yeah, that it's, and often when I mean, I don't know how to say this nicely, but it's often like they're playing checkers and we're playing chess. I mean, we close an absolutely an abnormal amount of our deals that we get exposed to, we close, because and I've never had a close ratio like I have had since I've been in the MSP industry. I was in a lot of, I was in enterprise sales before and a lot of other stuff in other industries, but over the last decade and a half, I've been in this industry, and it really is a huge gap in the
Okay. Now
because
let me,
IT people start IT companies, not
that
salespeople.
that's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to test a theory or a light observation I have on you because I think I'm not surprised to hear you say your close ratio has just been amazing in the MSP, selling MSP IT services.
Yeah.
I feel like, gosh, I don't have a great analogy, but my observation is when a buyer is presented with a salesperson presenting a solution, and whether that salesperson is the owner of the IT firm or somebody who's been trained up to do it, the whole thing is true. If they like you, they'll trust you, they'll buy from you, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about being guided through a sales process as opposed to bushwhacking your way through. If the buyer feels like I'm gonna have to take charge of this and do it my way, asking for a proposal really early, asking
Right.
about price really early,
Yeah.
then they're gonna go wherever they go in the closing sequence. But
Yeah.
when you've got a professional like yourself, you're actually taking the leadership position in that, and that's where we get it. So it's chess versus checkers for sure. Do you think there's something to that, who's leading the sales dance, whether it be the prospect or the sales professional?
Well, the thing about it is you have to control the geography of the sale. But if you're the person that is talking the most,
No, yeah, no,
you're failing,
no.
right? So it's like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali,
Yes,
if you're a fan, I'm a huge boxing fan.
yes,
One of the greatest things about Muhammad Ali that allowed him to win so much, even though he got hit so much in
yes,
his later career, was he would control when the engagement happened.
yes.
He didn't punch the most, he didn't punch the
Mm-mm.
hardest, but he decided when it happened because he would control the geography of the fight.
Yes.
And when he beat George Foreman, which is probably one of the scariest boxers in history,
Yeah,
that's how he beat him. He beat him
yeah,
on the ropes, the rope a dope, and
yep.
he decided when George Foreman was gonna connect with him. And so, as a salesperson, if you're in that upper echelon of salesperson, there isn't any first of all, there isn't any desire to sell anything that isn't going to really truly solve problems for the customer if you understand your role. What you're looking to do, we've categorized it into discover, stabilize, optimize, and innovate. So those are the four phases of our customers, right?
Uh-huh.
And what that means is basically the first step in helping a customer, and it happens in the sales process. You see, if you can do this at a smaller scale during the sales process, where you really listen and you understand the business needs of the customer, then you seek to show them how you will stabilize their current pain.
Mhm.
Then you show them one way how you will optimize a system and make it better for them. And then you show them one way how you will add an idea, an innovation to their system that will create revenue for them. You stop being
Mhm.
a cost center and you start being an investment with ROI. And one of the
Mhm.
metrics that we use when we're dealing with our customers in account management is we tie our technology to revenue, to the things that the SMB matters. So if we've put in a system, we do cost analysis on every system we put in place, every solution we put in place. And so we do this analysis and we show how much money this change in technology is going to save the business owner on the back end, right? And then at our account management meetings and in our QBRs and especially our annual ones, we actually show, okay, well, we saved you $29,000 over 5 years on your phone system. We cut your internet into by 30%, so that saved you this much money. And then we added this AI agent, and based on your numbers, your revenue numbers have gone up this much, right? Because of this AI agent helping your customers purchase your product. I'm just, and so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this is the stuff that matters to the business owner, especially the small business owners, revenue and profitability.
Yeah.
So in every conversation that we have with our customers, we try to tie revenue and profitability to technology and how it's going to help them with that. And if there's
Nice.
no business case to implement a technology, then don't implement it. If there,
Mhm.
right? And so it might be really cool, but if there's not a way where it will measurably reduce costs or increase revenue for the small business owner, don't do it, because
Right.
it's not going to be something that they're going to perceive as valuable. And in the
Hmm.
end, what allows you to retain your customers is the value you bring to their business.
Right. Right. Man, okay, I love it. I'm talking to a grandmaster here. All right, then we're gonna dig in a little bit. Do you mind?
Yeah, sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
because I love the craft of selling. I love learning about it. I love studying it. I love hearing stories. Let's work backwards a little bit. My personal sales guru is a guy named Steven Schiffman. He wrote the book Ask Questions, Get Sales, and several after that. It
Yeah.
came up in the era of like Zig Ziglar and David Sandler. And I wonder, do you have some kind of sales mentors or authors that you've kind of studied underneath in the past?
There's been a ton in terms of, and now you're putting me on the spot, but like
No. Okay.
there's a book by it's in the Rich Dad Poor Dad series, which
Okay.
is
Yeah.
yeah,
Guy
there
Kawasaki. Yeah.
yeah. There's a book in there. I can't remember the author's name, but it's called Sales Dogs.
Okay.
And it talks about the sales, how we sell. And
Yeah.
some of us are golden retrievers, and some of our pit bulls, and some of us are, and it compares us to the breeds of dogs, right?
Oh, wow.
And and it was interesting because the biggest lesson I took from that is at the end there is he talks about the master salesperson, and that person is able to be what is required in terms of identifying the the language that will work
Hmm.
best with the prospective customer. And
Right.
some people will respond better to a pit bull than they will to a golden retriever. You
Right.
know, there's some people
Right.
you call them, you know, hey, how's it going? How's the family? And if you don't ask those questions, they don't want to do business with you,
Right.
right? And there's other people that you call them and you ask those questions and you're wasting their time and they don't
Hmm.
want to do business with you. So you have to
Right.
understand who you're talking to and what they value. Are they task oriented, or are they feelings oriented or relationship oriented, right? And understanding how to do that.
So here's what I really like about that. I think anybody who studies sales kind of gets those lessons around the buying personalities, the
Yeah.
analytical, the guy that likes a lot of, uh, agreements from the team, those four primary ones. But I don't think there's enough talked about with the seller personality to kind of
Yeah.
say there's something to be said for who that person is across the table from you, but who are you? Who is your organic self?
Yeah.
And how do you kind of match or mirror
Yeah.
what that buyer is actually presenting to you and stay
And
in your genuine self?
exactly. I was going to say that, like, you're not becoming somebody else. You're just changing how you're communicating. That's it,
Mhm.
right? You're communicating the same. My why has always been to help the small business owner compete against large corporations, because I mean they're so critical to our economy. We like SMBs here in Alberta employ over 40% of our population,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
So are you kidding me right now? Like,
Yeah.
they are so critical and they get the least support when it comes to technology. And
Yeah.
everybody in the telecommunication space and the MSP space, and most, they're all looking to sell upstream because the big money's there, right?
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
about these individuals that are struggling with their business? And can we? There's such a huge portion of our
Yes.
business, right? How can we address their needs in a way that is scalable, that
Mhm.
makes us money, but creates win-win situations for them? And and that starts with being able to listen, and
Mhm.
then to be able to communicate what your passion is and how you can help them in a way where it's going to be received the best possible way by that person's preferred method of technology. It's like my wife. My wife. It took me about 20 years to figure her out, and not that I have, but we've been married 20 something years. I
Right.
don't know exactly how many years, but a long time. And I understood at some point that my wife will never come up to me and say, I love you she does not, she's not going to go on social media and expound her love for me. Right. It's not her personality.
Right, right.
She's the opposite of me. She's not, but my wife, love is an action. So
Yes.
right. So if I want to show my wife I love her, then I have to do something. Right.
Yes. Yes.
I can say it all day long. She doesn't hear that, right? Because that's
Right.
her love language. Well,
That's
we have
right.
a sales language. Individuals have a preferred method of communication, and
Yes.
if you can change your approach based on identifying what that method of communication is, then you can really get to a point where you're hearing the pain points that the customer
Yeah.
has and seeking to solve those problems for them.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay, I love this. Okay, so we know that we've read some things. We've got the books that I like, that you like. We take
Yeah.
those pieces away from it. Now let's kind of go one step up. We're now thinking about that prospecting moment. And I'll kind of interject here real quick. I think in a lot of the sales training that gets presented in our industry in particular, there's so much focus on the close,
Hmm.
or that deep into the sale. If they have this objection, here's how you might, work with that, or here's how to present the value proposition here. And I think that stuff is wonderful. I don't really love the training that our industry gets, but I think it's good and people mean well. But I think a lot gets kind of ignored in the earlier stages, that prospecting, that early relationship building. What's Mitz's take on salesperson prospecting in 2025?
It is this is our industry is unique, I think, in this way, but closing a sale is so much easier, in my opinion, than finding a prospect.
Uh-huh.
It, because a true prospect, right?
Right.
Um, there's a number of things that make it difficult. In most sales verticals, when you're trying to sell, you know who your target individual is specifically, right?
Uh-huh.
If you're selling I don't know, a software solution for I don't know, logistics, then you know that
Right.
you're going to talk to a supply chain management person, right? You know that
Right.
those are the people who are going to make that decision. But in MSPs, one of the things I struggle with is you have the owner, they could be the decision maker,
Uh-huh.
could be the CFO, could be
Uh-huh.
the COO, could be a secretary.
Right.
It's basically, we've categorized it into three uh, personas, right? The one is the owner, the two is the operations person in charge of operations, and the third is what we call the IT champion. And
Yes. Yes.
and that's the person who, oh, it could be any position in the company.
Right. Right.
You just
Right.
happen to know a little bit more about computers, so you got assigned to be the IT person
That's
that deals
right.
with the MSP, right?
Right.
So prospecting is so difficult
Yes.
because how do you say, well, like you can't create personalized messaging
Right.
because you don't know if like we have customer where the head of HR is the IT liaison. We've
Yeah.
got people where it's an engineer. We've got people where it's the owner, where it's the CEO.
Uh-huh.
It's like so and targeting with prospecting is what makes it effective because if you send out these generic emails, they never work. It's a little waste of your time. If you're communicating in generic ways, people don't hear you.
Right.
But the biggest obstacle being is in really identifying the target prospect, right? And then you have the other obstacle of how difficult, how painful it is to move a customer from an IT company to your company.
Right.
Like, and so a lot of the more successful, like, and all I'm talking about is outbound.
Yes.
There's,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
it.
right. Outbound prospecting, right? Inbound prospecting, well, SEO is king.
Sure.
Absolutely. Like, because now someone's searching for you. Intent data, is extremely important. Right. and having tools that allow you to identify intent data and then knowing how
Uh-huh.
to reach out to those potential prospects. But
Uh-huh.
outbound is a real beast, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we've been successful at connecting. Like we go to door to, like we'll go and knock on doors
Uh-huh.
in high density areas,
Yes.
and our only question is, hey, I don't want to bug anybody while they're working.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who takes care of the technology here? And can I get their card? That's the only way I figured out to effectively identify in individual companies who that key decision maker is and get to them, right? And so we build lists based off of who's
Yeah.
and then going over, and it's laborious and really really difficult, but it's proven actually to be the most effective way. But then even when you talk to that person, if they're not pissed off at their IT company, it's an uphill battle to win the sale. Like it is an uphill battle to win that sale. I showed a customer
Yeah.
that they were going to save $168,000 over 5 years if they came over to us, mostly thanks to our unbelievable telecoms out here.
Right.
And they still didn't come over
Uh-huh.
because they
Uh-huh.
loved their IT provider,
Oh,
and you know what? They didn't want to come over,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a really, even for a professional salesperson, and it's actually one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much. It's like wrestling a moose to the ground, but
Yeah.
it is one of the most difficult environments to effectively use traditional sales methods at large scale and reach the target client. Yeah,
I'm glad you said it,
yeah,
because these are the types of things that I know how in my company we sell.
yeah,
We work with, dozens of companies just on their sales kind of initiatives every year and speak to, hundreds more a year on these topics. And I sometimes think I'm going crazy with it's like, you gotta bring it back to what you learned in 2000 and 1995. Get out of the office, knock on some doors, figure out who your real prospect is, come
yeah,
back to the office, call them up, maybe send them a very personalized email,
yeah.
and rinse and repeat. It's volume, volume, volume
Volume. Yep.
until you find those people who are even in the frame of mind to think about making any
Mm,
sort of change.
yeah. And it's
So
the
I
only way.
I tend to
Yeah.
agree. Now, let's segue that in. So if I think we might, if I put it this way, we might both agree with this that prospecting is a personal thing, right? It's
Mhm.
a human trying to reach another human. Is that fair enough to use as a starting point?
Well, the technology is advancing so that it may not be a personal thing.
It may
It
not
may
be. I
not. Yeah, yeah. We're starting to experiment with some stuff in terms of AI outreach now, where that might not be the case. But for now, the most effective way is to huff it
That's right.
yeah,
So if we then say there's been this middle ground between an owner, a salesperson working for an MSP, trying to get in contact with those strangers, those new friends, and what AI is going to be able to do for us. We've got this middle ground that of these companies that say, we'll set appointments for you.
mhm,
Okay. And my take is I've met if more than 100 people know the name of any of these companies in the MSP space, I know the owner. Like I'm
yeah,
very in tune to the new ones coming up, the ones that have been around, and I like the owner. I think the owner's a great guy. I think he had a great initiative, a great idea. But if I lined up 100 of his clients and said, "You want to do it again?" they'd all say no.
nope,
And again, this is no slam on that industry. Some of them are pieces of shit who just suck
yeah,
and shouldn't be in business, but a
yeah,
lot of them really try to do it. My experience is outsourcing your cold calling. It just is not a winnable game. You have a
nope.
different take on that?
Nope, I completely agree. Which is unique because again, in other industries, it's quite effective,
Uh-huh.
right? But this is not the kind of industry where you can teach uh, uh, someone, how to speak, because we're not talking about selling a product.
Right.
We're talking about a service that stretches across the breadth of a company.
All right.
And so in a prospective call, you might be talking about dashboarding or business analytics or a server problem or a computer or slow customer service or slow
Right.
internet or like it's and so it's not just the fact that no third party is ever going to be able to understand the how to speak to the client quickly enough for you to actually use them, but it's also from the fact that they're not in your market, and each market is different and how they respond is different. So and then finally, nobody's going to care about your business more than you.
All right. I agree 100%. And I think that market component is definitely real. It's different in Western Canada than in
Yeah.
Quebec or wherever we may be. I think a component that I found very anecdotally, but I think it's pretty strong evidence is we had an appointment setter at Bering McKinley many years ago. I always shout her out, Annette Sullivan. She's amazing. She built Bering McKinley. And she was so effective at setting appointments for me as a W-2 employee. It took me forever to kind of figure out why she was so effective. It was because, for no justifiable reason, she loved me. She loved my mission. She loved
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
experience that she saw people having working with us. So she was all in on Team Josh, Team Barry McKinley.
Yeah.
And to me, that says I've never seen anyone as good as her. And when I think about, an outsourced, it's like you're not gonna you're not gonna know the culture of that company and
Yeah.
feel it to your bones when you're trying to represent. You gotta get on the meeting with Mitz.
Yeah.
He's gonna change your life. You give him 15 minutes. If he sucks, call and cuss me out, but I guarantee you that's gonna
Yeah.
be a half hour, 15 minutes well spent. No outsourced company is gonna get that vibe or that energy.
Yeah. And you know what? Mission, vision, values that
Yeah.
are real, that are
Yes.
real.
Yes.
They're not just words, but
Yes.
that you live by, that form your culture.
Yes.
And and I would add one more thing: the
Yep.
why you are doing what you do.
Yeah.
You know, um, that is un that is you can't have that unless you're inside the company and exposed to that from a first person perspective. So I totally agree with you on that. It's also a thing I struggled with in terms of, when we would hire marketing agencies
Mm,
to work with us, and
mhm.
trying to get a marketing agency to understand, what you are trying to do. And really, the only way this would work is that if the marketing, and I would insist on this, it's like you're there to do work. You're not there to create the marketing plan. Like you're
Uh-huh,
not there for the messaging, you're not there for the branding. That has to come from us. And
uh-huh,
what you're there to do is to execute
uh-huh.
at a level that our resources won't allow us to do. So that was really a change of a lot of people hire a marketing agency and say, hey, just do our marketing. But like
Right.
it's not, it doesn't work either. It's the same situation. They're
Yeah.
outside of the environment. They don't understand the culture. And then there is always a point in time when you've written down that mission, vision, value, and that why,
Uh,
where your employees figure out whether you are full of crap or whether you are really what your mission, vision, values say. And that's when the morale and passion of the company either, and it's a point in time where, let's say there was a time where we talked about, it was a company I worked for. We talked about how important what respect was to us. Was one of our values that we respect
uh-huh.
each other, that we value input and we respect each other. And I remember there was a team member on my team that got absolutely berated
Right.
by one of the close friends of the owners. He was a co-owner,
Uh-huh.
and so everybody saw it, everybody heard it, and 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 then what happened was, to make this shorter than it is, the owner did not step up and apply the consequences that he had been talking about, that he had applied to other employees for disrespecting other employees,
Uh-huh.
when it came down to it, it was like, oh no, this vision and value, that's only for
Um,
you guys. It's not for us. We don't have to follow that culture. And then
man.
that company has not grown since I left because it's not authentically who they're about, right? And so you have to watch
Yes.
for that moment, because you're going to have a moment where you're able to show your employees that you're for real about what you believe in and what you're here for. And when you do that, though, you can transform the direction of your company just by that, because then they will say, "Oh, this is for real. I can buy into this now."
Mitz, I just I love that you're going there. It's so, just for years, I struggled in our own business around mission, vision, values, and we got kind of our value statements done and felt really good about those. Had that mission and vision statement that I never quite felt right. The values, I was like, core values, I was like, all right, I these are me. I love these. These are it. Uh, and the piece I missed until just a few years ago was that why. And I had a
Uh-huh.
consultant come and work with me, not on that, but he just went straight there. And he calls it the purpose statement, the kind of the why. What is the purpose of this business? And I'll tell you what, man, uh, maybe it took as long as it should take, but I felt like it took me an extraordinarily long time to like get that authentic message.
It's
And
work.
once I did, I was like, shit, this is it. Like this is it. And I would say my sales are easier, my communication to my marketing folks is easier, hiring new people, it's like just this absolute clarity. And it's, I was probably 50 years old when I finally got that in my head after having worked with thousands of companies. As I go back and we start our engagements with clients now, it's like there's usually this long list of shit that needs to be done. But I have to say, let's get into this, at least the why. Because if
Yeah,
we don't know why we're doing any of this, if we don't know why we're in
yeah,
business, boy, we're going to struggle. And it's not hard, but it's a challenge to compel people to play that game of figuring it out without also making them not wrong for having not done it. It's
yeah,
trying to say, here's the key. You heard about this key, but you didn't really know the power of this key. So
yeah,
let's spend some time shaping it and getting it right.
yeah.
How long have you guys had your MSP now? How long have you guys been in business?
Well, we started our MSP around 2022,
Okay.
so it's relatively new. And I was still working full time, so was my partner at that
Yeah.
time. And in 2023 is when I left my position as an executive and really got going on this. And so we've really been in business really for about 2 years. So we're a relatively new company.
Yeah.
Um, but back to, I wanted to mention something just for the sake of, maybe
Yeah.
the three
Well, here's
people
where
that
I'm
listen.
going with this is how
Yeah,
did that
yeah,
land in your
yeah.
new company? Yeah.
So what it started with, this process 10 years ago of like having to build out sales and marketing, and then it really evolved into, um, how can we communicate and what should we communicate, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if and I want to really definitely acknowledge two books that in the marketing space that have changed my life, which is Simon Sinek, Start with
Mhm.
Why, which
Yep.
is, is it's like the Bible, I think, for marketing. And the second one is a relatively new or individual. Man, I hope I can remember the name, but it's called. Anyways, it's about creating a brand story. I can't
Mm.
remember what the name of the actual book was, but it's really, it's transformational. You have to be clear about why you're doing this. And we
Mhm.
have our why. Our why is elevating quality of life, supporting the SMB, and
Mhm.
impacting the business success of our customers through technology. That's what we're about. We're about
Yes.
elevating quality of life. my quality of life, my employees' quality of life, their employees' quality of life, their quality of life, you know, and then really helping them to hire more people, support the economy like they do, make their dreams come through by
Uh-huh.
leverage and which is our mission. Our mission is helping people around us to leverage the power of technology
Uh-huh.
so they can make their dreams come true, right?
I think and just A, I agree. And two, I think you're thinking of Brand Story, Donald Miller.
Don and Miller, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Brand Story.
Yeah.
That book was amazing
I
because
haven't
it's
read it. It's a must read, huh?
yeah. It breaks down it because it's very good for SMB first of all, and it keeps it it's like keeps it really simple so that someone that's not a marketer could step in and actually follow this formula and create a really good brand story,
Uh-huh.
and um, and it makes you think about things like you know who are you like who's your ideal customer,
Uh-huh.
where do they exist, why do they switch companies, and what should you be saying to them,
Right.
and it's really about it comes down to so much of the marketing that I see especially from MSPs is look how great we are
Um,
so amazing. And in every one of those stories, they're talking about how they've helped this person, they helped this person. That the hero of the story is the MSP,
oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but really, if you really want to connect with people, you make them the hero of the story,
Uh,
right? And you know what you
Interesting.
are, and so you're talking about them and what they can do, right? And what you are is instead of being, not to date myself, but instead of you being the Karate Kid,
All right.
yeah, you're the old
Yeah. Mr.
sensei,
Miyagi. Yeah. Yeah.
You're Mr. Miyagi, right? That's
Yeah.
you're the guide, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so and you make them the hero, and so when you market, every piece of your market is like, how can I make the SMB the hero? And it's
Mm,
about emphasizing how critical they are to our economy, and it's about saying true things about them and how much they struggle and how little they're supported on a government level, on a everything, right?
yeah.
Everything's stacked against them,
Yes.
and so it's sort of being that person that steps in and says, here's technology that allow you to be like Rocky, like to
Yeah.
climb and overcome what seems an impossible task and hit harder than you should be hitting and stand up when you get knocked down and make you resilient as a company. And that's really where next step, our company, that's where we sit. That's where we
Uh,
want to be.
I
Um,
love it. Okay, so now let's kind of look at the breadcrumbs that we've dropped so far. We've talked about you know what's inspired us or motivated us in sales. We've talked about where we've been in sales. We talked a lot about those mission, vision, values, the why. We're talking about the challenge of prospecting, which brought us to the mission, vision, why, values. Now, as we kind of think about where you are with, a 2 or 3 year old MSP, all the experience in the world, probably a great technical genius partner. You've got that secret thing that most MSPs don't have, which is a love of sales and willingness to go out and do it. What's the strategy for your company in terms of, because you almost could fall into this trap that the technician built MSP, which is I'm a tech. I'm going to do tech work as I build my company, which we know is, feels necessary, but is not going to get you where you want to be, but gets us off the
mhm.
ground. I've never thought about it from the perspective of the founder who's loves and awesome at sales, saying, "Okay, I'm going to be the sales person now." How are you facing that moment of I can go do it, but I could also try to figure out how to build this sales team a little earlier than a traditional MSP might. Where do you land in that moment?
That's interesting. I don't think we're quite there. Like we've doubled in sales every year we've been in business.
Mhm.
we're not at a point, I think, where if I was just the VP of sales and marketing, where I'd say we need another sales guy.
Hmm.
And at this point in time, what I would say, and what you're getting at, is basically working on the business, working in the business,
A little bit of
right?
that for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And what happens is that at some point as an owner, you have to stop working in the business. You have to work on the business, right?
Hmm.
And you have to, um, you have to stay in touch, I think, to a
Hmm.
degree of what I've seen anyways, having worked in a number of startups and environments like ours. Um, but in the end, when you're in an environment like ours, the only thing that matters is growth.
Yes.
Like for the first 5 years of this, the only thing I'm focused on is growth.
Uh,
And right now, the best person to grow our company is me.
right.
You know what I mean? And so, but as soon as we can delegate this and get people in to help us with sales, I think that that's, and when you do that is when you can't work on your business anymore. When your sales, when the role of the salesperson is a full-time job,
Hmm.
then you got to step away from that, right? Immediately, because you have to be a full-time owner, not a full-time salesperson,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So, so the value you bring in basically distilling the culture and duplicating the sales processes and training the sales processes and becoming a leader in that area is far more valuable than you being the actual salesperson. But in the short term, it's a different,
Okay.
sort of, yeah,
So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to tell a lie or if I'm going to tell the truth.
yeah,
I think I'll tell the truth.
tell the
So
truth. Yeah.
I was going to tell this more of a third party, but I'm going to say it about myself. So my consultant, who I think every word out of his mouth is just gold, uh, he was pointing out a mistake that he thinks I made, which is uh, I built the company, Josh, and here's all the prospects. And there's this really short line between the two of us. I went out and I spoke at events. I engaged in our market, and with the Nets help massively. But I was the salesperson forever. And he said, then you got to a point where you got kind of comfortable, maybe a little lazy, and but instead of just saying that, you said, I need to scale my sales department. So I started bringing in salespeople and marketing. And he said, all you really did was you took this really straight line and you started curling it around and moved it all
Mm,
over the place and made this really complex thing when before it was a straight line. He said, you're not wrong to try to scale it, but you stepped out of it too soon, Josh. You took
knowing
the
when,
thing that was
yeah,
working and you said, I'm going to put this away and just do this,
yeah.
and really, you should have said, let's keep this thing here and do that. So I thought that was really brilliant. I didn't like hearing it, but I think he was right.
It's a hard, like there are moments in, because I've been involved in, it's one of the things I dedicated myself to doing was working with startups and seeing this happen where, because this is your little baby as as a founder, right? And you love it so much. And so knowing when it's time to step away from those things is really difficult. It's difficult, and it can be emotional,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Like the joy you have of doing what you're doing, you have to give that up for a better joy, a greater joy of building something, maybe
Right.
generational for you and your family and the people you care about. But it's like I've seen it where the owner just can't let go. Like
Right.
they can't, like, because I've been the VP of sales and marketing. You hired me because I'm smarter than you at this particular thing.
Right.
You're the genius owner that did this, right? And got yourself to a point where you could hire a VP of sales and marketing.
Right.
But I've been in that situation where the owner doesn't, it can't, like, you're trying to, you're almost fighting for his success against him because of the
Uh-huh.
fact that you're changing things to be more efficient and better. And those changes, he feels like, are changing the identity of the company.
Uh-huh.
And being able
Uh-huh.
to balance that. And I've also learned also, though, you can't just go off and do that on your own. You have to have the input of the owner. because you don't want to
Right.
change the identity of the company. You
Right.
just want to make the message clearer and more and better, right? So
That's
you have to
right.
understand. So it's that balancing act, and so I'm on the other side of things now, where at what point do I need to give this baton off to somebody else? And how much do you want to have your fingers in there to make sure that things are on brand, the message is right, and we're
Mhm.
doing things for the right reasons. It's um it's a reason why a lot of companies fail after their founder, successful companies, super successful companies fail as soon
Yeah.
as the founder leaves the company. Like, yeah,
I've always been pretty cognizant of, one of the great things about my job is we're business consultants, so we get to work with businesses and smart people and learn. So I'm always learning and paying attention, applying lessons to ourselves. So I've always been very aware of the owner who hung on to a thing too long when it's like, you got to let that go, whether it's getting alerts on every ticket or whether it's
yeah, yeah,
insisting that you're, signing off on every design element. What I wasn't as cognizant of was the owner relinquishing something too soon.
yeah,
That wasn't on my radar, so then I fell
yeah,
into the trap. Now I'm looking for it with our clients, but boy, doing it too soon
yeah.
is pretty painful as well.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
I am not an expert on this subject because I have never been on this side of the right. I've always been
Yeah.
the other side of it, like, hey, give me that, give me like let
Yes,
go of that,
yes.
let go. I've never been on the side um where I'm the actual owner. This is really the first. I mean, I've owned other companies, but none of them have been as successful as this.
All right.
And really, I don't know. I can't help you with that. I just know that it's hard, and you have to be really smart about it because, again, you you can't let somebody change the identity of the core thing that has made you successful is your why, whether it's written down or not. It's what's made you successful if you've had success with it. And so you have to make sure that whoever you hand that baton on has the same why, the same vision. And you do have to monitor it from a distance to make sure, I think, and again, I have gone through this. And I hate listening to people that haven't gone through. Like, you have to be careful who you listen to in life, right?
That's right.
Right. Like, so many experts that have never actually built a business are trying to tell you how to build a business. But
You're right.
but it's that point where you are letting go of the direction of your company in terms of the day to day, but you're making sure that you're heavily involved in maintaining the identity and the vision of the company, and distilling that throughout the every aspect of your business, right?
Right. Right. We talk a lot about, since there are infinitely more service managers and sales managers in MSP land, there's infinitely more technicians than there are salespeople in this land. We get some real clarity on that service delivery side of saying, okay, you're the owner, you built it from 1 tech to 5 techs to 10 techs, time to bring in that service manager. And
Yeah,
and that gets, fumbled quite a bit. But those that start getting into this place of saying, okay, I built a framework of how we deliver services, hopefully profitably, hopefully with a great client experience, and hopefully with a great employee experience. But even if I didn't nail it, I have a framework to hand off to a service manager. And if there's a huge grading of how you do that handoff, one extreme can be, I'm going to hand it off, but not really. I'm going to micromanage everything you do. The other end of the extreme is, hey, it's yours, good luck. Somewhere in the middle is this kind of outcome based handoff for a service manager where we say, look, as a service manager, you owe me 55% service department gross profit. You owe me a net promoter score of 80 above and growing. And you owe me an employee net promoter score of X and above and growing.
yeah,
Here's the framework. Here's the outcome. You know why we're doing this, and now go. I don't think we've had the opportunity to put as much attention towards when do we hand the sales reins off. Now, I do have one guy Good buddy, good client of mine. And we've been on about an 8-year journey of handing the sales reins over. And just very recently, after 7 years with the same sales director, he just took it back. And he's like, I'm glad I'm taking it back because I get to get back to the simple basics. And when I look at what the incumbent was doing, he had great intentions and we had a ton of success. But I think to your point, Mitz, something was getting lost. And I think
Mhm.
it was part of that kind of cultural identity
Yeah.
because he's an old school sales grinder. He's awesome at it. His team that he's built's been there forever. But that quote unquote experiment of 7 years with that director, that manager, it didn't feel right to him. Even though he's getting some results, it didn't feel right. And we really had to process over the last several weeks and months of like him, he's pretty certain of himself. He doesn't have a lot of self-doubt, but just kind of those moments of, was I right? What did I screw up? Did I fail?
Depends what your
Shouldn't I
goals are.
shouldn't I be high? Shouldn't I wouldn't it
Yeah.
look wouldn't I feel better if I was hiring that person's replacement? Was taking it back to myself a problem? So he's having to
Mhm.
process through that. It's not an existential crisis by any means, but
Yeah. But
it's very much a check-in point to say, what happened here?
And I think we would do a disservice not to talk about it's not, and the reason why I don't mention it, and the reason why we've talked so much about identity and culture is because that's for me a major concern. But I think that a huge concern in the industry is the actual like the documentation of an actual sales funnel
Yeah.
and a sales system and a sales
Yes.
SOP. Like
Yes.
none of this, when you're the salesperson and you're the owner, you're just doing it, right?
That's
And
right.
then and you're not. And so for me, I mean, that's like ingrained in me. We create a specific,
Yeah.
we have stages, right? And we progress the sale, and I understand the difference between a stage and a status, and
Yes.
so creating a real clear progression. This is how we mature a sale, and then this is what causes something to mature. If you're moving it closer to being sold, then
Mhm.
it should be changing stages. And if
Right.
you're simply doing something within a stage that is, sort of moving it towards moving to the next stage, then it's a status, right? So
Right.
understanding those things and then having a physical CRM, because and then creating that system so that now when that salesperson comes into play, he has the tools or she has the tools to be able to sit in, and there's a system. There's something to
Yes.
train them on
Yes.
how to do this, right?
Yes.
When I started with that original MSP, uh, there was nothing in place. And 99% of salespeople, I feel like in the MSP space, if when they're hired, they have nothing to work with.
Nothing.
And so it's such a difficult thing, um, to be able to like, okay, so how do I go about doing this? And so if you haven't, you have to standardize. Basically what I'm saying in a really a lot of words is you have to standardize your sales process, and then once you have standardized that process, you have to create it within a CRM,
Yes.
and then you have to log data
Yes.
and have data and make data-driven decisions,
Yes. Yeah.
and create that environment where the salesperson can now get a login, have data that they can look at of what's been successful, what's not been successful, and have a clear system they just need to follow. So, okay, this is what I need to do here. So I need to do here. This is what I need to do. And duplicate, because if you don't do that, no matter how good a salesperson you aren't duplicatable. And if you
Uh-huh.
don't duplicate, you can't scale. And if you don't scale, you're never going to achieve, you know, if that's your goal. Because there's a lot of people in the MSP industry, where this is a lifestyle. They're
Yeah.
like, I want to get big enough that I pay for my expenses. I don't want
Uh-huh.
to. I don't want to be a multimillionaire. I don't, and I want to not have, a huge sales team and a marketing team and a tech team and a service manager. I don't want that. I just want to just take care of my customers myself, make
Yeah.
enough money to feed my family. There's a lot
Yep.
of people like that, right?
Sure.
And so that's why I said with your person you were talking about, what is his goal? Like if your
Mm,
goal is to scale, you need to create systems that are scalable
mm,
and
that's right.
duplicatable. If your goal is to have a business that supports your lifestyle, well, you don't need to do any of that stuff, and so don't do it. Just do what makes you happy.
That's so right. And boy, I could keep you on here for 10 hours. I won't do that, I promise. But thinking very specifically of this gentleman, it's really, he's a fascinating one. He's closing in on 15 million. He always has at least 5 to 7 salespeople, sometimes as many as 12 and 13. And he's one of those people that just can't learn anything. He's one of the best pilots I've ever met. He's
Oh,
awesome at
wow, cool.
everything he does. And it's like watching him evolve in the mechanics of sales has been fascinating because he's just organically good at it. But the mechanics, he didn't really want to burden himself with. So he built a bunch of salespeople who work in his likeness. But, it wasn't, 6 weeks ago, he was like, Josh, I got to show you this thing I did in ConnectWise. It's going to blow your mind. And he's like showing me an activity point system. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, dude, sweet. Welcome to 1984. Like, that's
Yeah,
badass.
yeah,
I hate that you've paid me hundreds of thousands or at least tens of thousands of dollars and you didn't pick that up on the way. You had to invent that in your own head through whatever else you learned. But welcome. I'm glad you're here.
yeah,
Now what? Right. And he had done a lot of the now what, and I was really proud of him. But it's just like, even a guy who's sales minded and has a sales driven growth organization, it's just how long it can take you to get exposed to the right thing at the right time to say, this is going to move us along to the point of the word replicatable system
yeah,
that you said. It's so true. And things like stages, you rattle those stage notions off very easily. What's the difference between a stage and a status? Dude, no one is going to come across that organically. This is
yeah,
something that it's a
yeah.
craft. It's a
A
thing.
skill.
It's a
Yeah, like a
skill.
skill. Yeah, yeah,
And it just, when I think of MSPs, majority of them are stuck at $1 million to $2 million, and some are very happy to be there. Stuck wouldn't even be the
yeah,
right word,
yeah,
but many of them want to get to 5 and 10. And it's like, hey, until you're ready to figure out this sales beast and all the intricacies of it, you're going to be stuck there. And guess what? All you have to do is put a little bit of effort into it, a little bit of thought, and you'll immediately start seeing some traction up. But if you're not willing to put that investment in, you're going to keep hiring your first salesperson over and over and over
yeah,
again,
yeah,
and think sales sucks, sales doesn't work, it's too expensive, salespeople are liars, all the just
yeah,
head junk. Which for
yeah,
guys like you as an MSP, you're like, yes, guys, please keep thinking that,
yeah. It's
because
great.
I'll come
Yeah,
over here
we're
and win the race.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and the other thing is like in sales, there are two skill sets, and one is vastly more common than another. There's the sales skill, right? And there's soft skills and hard skills, right, in sales. And that's the ability to sell and communicate effectively and do those things. But there's a whole other side of sales, especially as technology advances, that is really going to become, has always been critical, but now is going to become like a lifeline, which is sales operations,
Mm,
right? Is the ability to build out sales op like an operating system that
yes.
everybody can just plug in and get going, right? And creating that system
Mm,
and using technology to amplify the effectiveness of your salespeople as the underpinning is a whole different kind of actual like it's a skill set that I found in the MSP. A lot of people are good at sales or can be good at sales. Very few people know how to create a sales or operate a sales environment so that it's successful on a bigger scale, past themselves selling, right?
Right.
That sales operations aspect is a combination of understanding the sales process and documenting it. It's a combination of understanding who you're selling to and how you should approach them. And then it's about technology and data, right? It's the other
Right.
side of taking the the strategy, the sales strategy, and systems and operating practices that you've now formalized, and then putting them into some sort of technology environment where they now can be represented in a super easy way to understand, so that salespeople don't have to become sales operations specialists to be able to sell in your business. They just have to learn the system, duplicate the activity, so they get the results, right? And then with that data, as the person taking care of sales, you're seeing that, you know, this person needs to talk to 100 people to speak to 10 to close 10 customers, and this person has to talk to 20 people to close 10 customers. And I don't care. Like, I don't care if you are talking to 500 people a day and you're closing 10 customers. What I care about is 10 customers. That's what
That's
I care about as a
that's
salesperson,
right.
right? So, and if you're playing golf every day and you're still closing 10 customers, I don't care, right?
Yep.
Like, I honestly, but the system has to be in place so that their skill can be applied effectively, and
Yes.
so that you can monitor it and be able to judge whether they're actually being successful or not. And I think a lot of salespeople, the only thing they're evaluated on in an MSP is their sales, when it's like they're running a race with, like, jumping over barriers and hula hoops, and everybody in their entire environment is the opposite personality type as they are, because they're working with
Right.
IT people
Yes.
and
Yes.
operations people. And so it's such a difficult environment to be successful in. And so we just, as an industry, we need to make it better. We need to adopt very, very basic, like you were talking about, sales practices, and start implementing them in our business. And maybe that's another step for me one day. But
Mhm.
again, I haven't built a, 20 million, $50 million a year MSP. I'm going to do that with Next Step, but I will not actively seek to consult people until I have. Like, that's how I'm built. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So this is amazing. So you have the skills, the knowledge, the experience to build that sales system at Next Step. And you have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You also have the skills and the experience to be the doer, go and sell. Right now, you're going out and you're selling. I oftentimes look at my owners who don't have your skill sets and say, right now, we need to be building your sales infrastructure. We call it infrastructure, but I like that word system even better. We need to build your sales system, because we can build this in a vacuum. We can build out the blocking and tackling system, so that when that great looking salesperson who looks like they check all the boxes lands, you can say, cool, I can plug them in.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we go seeking a salesperson, they don't even land in our lap, and we bring them in and do exactly what you said and exactly what you experienced, which is, okay, you're the salesperson. What are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
So for you, with the skill sets to do both, when do you start building that infrastructure, that system? Because you could
Day
wait.
one,
Okay. So you have that infrastructure built
right
out. You're
now.
ready for it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a number of things I've seen. Okay. So number one, you buy software. First of all, never, ever buy a software that isn't going to be able to scale to the size you want to be in 10 years.
Right. Right.
Never buy a software for your needs now. You
Hmm.
go find a software. So for example, if I have a choice between a specialized MSP software that is, or a HubSpot,
Uh-huh.
right? For example,
Uh-huh.
I know I can get into HubSpot for 20 bucks a seat. This
Uh-huh.
other one might cost me 20 bucks a seat, but
Uh-huh.
I'm buying the HubSpot. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I know that if I become a mid-market company, I can upgrade to the mid-market version of HubSpot.
That's right.
If I become a enterprise level company, I can upgrade to the enterprise level. You buy
Right.
mini versions of big softwares that you can scale into and not have to change the software.
Yes.
Number one, you do it
Yes.
from day one. And then you operate, even if you're a one person, you operate, every single sale is in the funnel. Every single communication is tracked through email and phone. Everything is all there in my CRM. I'm the only person selling right now in my company, but it's all there. Why? Because when I hire a salesperson, I will have these years of data, but also will have these best practices showing that this is how we do things
Yes.
here at this
Yes.
company. So so you do it from day one, you build your business. And then here's the other thing I experienced. I was in a very, very large, it was the largest equity investment in the history of Alberta at this telecommunications company that I was. Now it ended up we won the deal, and then after due process, it didn't go through. But
Huh.
it was a huge investment, and the one thing they said to us in terms of our sales, and it made me proud, was, "You guys are operating like a company that is 10 times larger than what you are, which is what you should be doing if you want to scale."
Right.
Right? The solutions you put in place should be solutions that will work both at your current size and at the enterprise size, because I have done this. Oh my goodness, changes. Growth is painful, ugly, and terrible, actually. Everybody wants to grow. But then when you act like a couple of the MSP owners I worked for, they were like, yes, let's grow, let's grow, let's grow. Man, I got in there and I grew their company, doubled and tripled their sales. And you know what? It was awful for them.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
had to get new software. They had to hire new people. They had to change how they did everything in their business. They had to get rid of
Yes.
customers that weren't profitable. They had to make all these awful changes to their business. Growth is painful. So what you want to do when you're starting off, I've learned, is start and try and eliminate as many of the pains as possible. And one of the ways you can really do that is by implementing mini versions of enterprise level software that can grow with your company at every area of your business. That's the biggest thing.
Outstanding. Mitz, I'll tell you, I think of all of the owners who I've worked with who have closed hundreds, if not thousands of deals in their 20 years. And if they would have had that great advice you just dropped on us of build the system, build the tool, get that mini version of the enterprise tool, just treat it as if you have 10 salespeople, treat it as if you have a sales manager, just track those deals. They would have so much data on what worked, what didn't work, and be able to say, hey, I may not be the greatest, onboarder of salespeople, but at least I can point you to what I've been doing for the last 10 years
Yeah.
and give you a running start. Man, that's gold, man. That's
I know.
gold.
And then people that want to buy your business,
Oh, yeah.
when they look, because they do due diligence. So if
Yes.
you want to sell your business, if you have data to show, to prove, like, it doesn't matter to an investor how awesome the numbers are what matter, right? Your EBITDA and the value of your company. And if you can show them that, like, look, here are graphs showing, the reports for the last 10 years
Uh-huh.
because you've tracked it, you can sell. You're way more likely to get that money that you need in order to grow your business and or sell your company and create an exit strategy for yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got this theory that goes right in line with that. I say you're a $3 million MSP doing 20% net profit. You're going to get your 3 or 4 or 5x. Probably not going to be a private equity. It's probably going to be one of your competitors or somebody in your community. If you can have something that buyer doesn't have, you suddenly are all the more valuable. Of course, they want your recurring revenue. Of course, they want your client list. But if you can say, oh, and by the way, let me show you our sales machine, I guarantee you that other $5 million MSP doesn't have a sales machine. You suddenly are so much more attractive, much more so than your amazing dispatch model for your, engineering. Because MSPs can figure that kind of stuff out. They can't figure out the sales piece. So I think, just as an endorsement to what you said, your valuation could very much increase by some X if,
We had a company try and buy us for our brand.
yes,
Like
Yes.
they were coming in way bigger than us, and
Yes.
they wanted to change their name to Next Step Technology Solutions Provider,
Oh, how funny.
and 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 change everything in terms of their approach.
Yes.
They wanted to buy us for our brand. Now they didn't offer us enough money, of course,
Right.
but and so we said no. But the reality is that that was insane to me because like there was this company that was doing, $7 million a year in sales. We're just a startup for 3 years old, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to buy you, and then we want to become Next Step Technology solutions providers, and we want you to come on board and do our sales and marketing, right?"
That's
So it was,
awesome.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Mitz, I'll tell you, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Yeah, I had no idea who you were when we started this conversation. Learning what you've experienced in sales is just gold, man. And I hope that I can invite you back and we can keep talking about sales more
I'd
regularly
love
because I
to.
think this is outstanding.
Yeah, well,
So
thank you for doing this. It's just awesome.
yeah,
It's great. Thanks so much, Josh.
good. Was it a good experience for you?
Yeah, it was fun. I
Okay.
love talking shop. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.